All right, we're back for another week. More portal news has happened. We have more guys that are gone. We have some of our guys are committed to some schools, a few of them, some rivals. Where's the loyalty?
Yeah, next week's gonna suck for him, but other than that, yeah.
What is happening? Welcome into the Gravity Design Lab studio. Let's get into the show. The surprise of the portal has got to be the Metcalf brothers, because I didn't see them leaving and heading to Michigan of all places. It was not another SEC school, so that's good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some guys that I didn't expect to enter the portal, and I mean, I think there's some that kind of made sense, but I mean, we kind of touched on this last time, but I don't think you expected a majority of your two deep to leave in the portal, and I think one of the big differences is most of these guys that are leaving, they're finding homes at big time schools. I mean, last year Rocket went to South Carolina and KJ went to UCF, so I mean, those were kind of big names, but I mean, a lot of these guys have been going to lower schools and then they'll hop over and play with Barry at UNLV. But I mean, this year you've got the Metcalf brothers going to Michigan. You've got, Braxton, Hawes, and Kudos going to Ole Miss. Then you got Brad Spence going to Texas and Josh Braun going to Kentucky. I mean, these guys are going to pretty good schools, so it's been pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's thinking back to like old school ways of thinking, I guess now. These guys are all going to rivals like
Yeah.
Ole Miss, Texas. What in the world? I mean, Kentucky's not really a rival, but they're another SEC school. So, but I mean, the flip side is we're getting guys from some of these schools too. Historically, I mean, some of our best players have been that way. Landon Jackson was LSU, Drew Sanders was Alabama. So I mean, there's that aspect, but I mean, it's still like the sheer number of guys and how quickly they committed to those schools. Something doesn't seem right with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can see it going. There's a path to where the three guys that went to Ole Miss, it could really come back to bite us, or it could just be, non-factor. I mean, um, honestly, to me, I'm not making grades or anything. Kudus is a good lineman, but like some sites have him like as a top 10 player, and most sites have him as a top 50 player. And this is a guy that was 2 years ago. We had the worst offensive line in the history of our program, and he was a mainstay at right tackle. And honestly, didn't. I mean, he was okay, but nobody on that line was good. And then you move him into guard this year, and he plays 4 games, and I mean, he was all right. I mean, I can't remember being blown away by him, but again, our line was better this year, but that's not saying a whole lot. And when he came back, I didn't see a substantial difference. So I'm just kind of shocked at how highly rated he is, like in the portal. Would I like him to come back? Yes. But I don't see him as a top 10 player in the whole portal. And honestly, I mean, he's been injured so much. I have a hard time seeing that one. Haas, he didn't get the production that I think most people wanted out of him, so maybe he'll go there and kill it, but I'm not sure. But he had a good start to his freshman year, got hurt. He was injured a good chunk of this year, but played through it and didn't put up huge numbers. I mean, I thought he did solid, but not huge numbers. And then same thing with Braxton. I mean, he didn't play at all last year, and he was pretty solid as a freshman. But again, I think you wouldn't say anything special about our secondary the last 2 years. So I'm shocked at how high rated they are. And I'm with you. I'm kind of curious to see how that'll go and how these guys will do at some other spots. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, injuries was pretty big factor in all those guys. none of them have really been healthy for a stint. I mean, you had Haas was starting to get healthy, and that's when he started getting some of his yards and catches and targets. But every time he got targeted before, every time he caught the ball, you saw him kind of oh, my back, and like catch up, and it's like, golly, like he's gonna break his back if he keeps. He does that jerking motion and then gets popped in the back one time by a linebacker. It's over. Like it's just, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like they'll probably do okay. Ole Miss is also one of those spots that they have so much talent and money for that talent, I guess, that they just don't. They're deep. They're deeper than Arkansas, so they may not even start.
Yeah.
I mean, Haas, I could see him starting, but Braun, not Braun, Kudus and Braxton. I don't know. I mean, it's we'll see. I think we have some talent coming in, though. I mean, you have some receivers and you have some of those guys. Who do you see that's coming in that could really step in to kind of replace some of this? I mean, you still have a long way to go because your numbers are way out of balance. I mean, sky is semi-falling, but hopefully it'll come back in. What do you? Who's coming in to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of touch on that last part before we start diving into names. We talked about it last week. I mean, you might as well move on, and the course has been set, and we're kind of plowing through. But I think it's wild how the whole premise behind Guy bringing the coaching staff back. I mean, that's what the administration, that's what the leadership decided was, okay, Sam's getting another chance. We're going to bring the coordinators back. We have this continuity. We're sticking with this. And I think the thought was you're going to return your core group of guys. You're going to actually supply a little bit of extra money, and you can go and get some difference makers in the portal. Because I think that's what happened, last year was we had to replace our main, before last year started, you thought Rocket and KJ was going to lead the offense. Armstrong was going to come in and be your receiver, and you picked up Broden and Tesla, and you're thinking, okay, you got him some new weapons. You've got a deep tight end room. You had Ty Washington, Luke Haas, and then you brought in Varkey's Gums, who was a big portal commodity in the year that he came in, and that didn't work out. So last year you kind of have to replace all of that, and you give Sam the leeway of, okay, make a bowl game this year, and we'll build on that. So that's what he did, is he made a bowl game, and I think the thought was bring these core group of guys back and then bring in some difference makers and then see if you can make some noise. Well, that has definitely not happened. You've lost, a lot of guys. I saw a stat earlier where we're returning like 250 receiving yards and like 200 rushing yards. So in my mind, if your thought was to bring those core group of guys back, that sure as heck didn't happen. So yeah, they got a lot to replace. Now, most time if you're building a franchise, if you're building a team, your quarterback's where you got to start. That's one of the guys that are coming back. So you got Taylor Green. Now you got to find him weapons. Could Green have been better this year? Yes, but I think he's solid enough, and I don't think you had to go out and spend $3 million to keep him or whatever the crazy numbers are. So I think you got him relatively at an okay price, and now you're going to bring in these other guys. And they brought in a few guys. So Raylan Sharp is a guy. Well, here, I'll pause. Did you want to touch on anything I just said? I don't want that to get lost, but.
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's the fact that you're having to replace basically your whole team, but you're keeping the core piece. Like, I think that's very important. What you're saying with Taylor Green staying is huge. I mean, you get some people around him because he was hurt too a lot of the year. Whenever he was not looking great, he was hurt. You get him a line that can actually block for him to where he's not running for his life. You get him some more weapons that can catch the ball around him. you kind of addition by subtraction with Broden. I feel like this year maybe you get some other pieces. Hopefully that can catch the ball. You're not going to replace an Andrew Armstrong with a bunch of Andrew Armstrongs, but you get a bunch of guys that are solid that can catch the ball. They don't have to be home run hitters, but you catch some of those 5-6 yard passes that were dropped routinely, you're doing all right. And so I think that's kind of where you were about to go with some of the talent that's coming in, because some of that is in the receiving core. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. You bring back the staff is intact, but like the players, which I mean, it's a 6-6 team. If you replace them with some better talent, that better fixture system, that's more coachable, whatever the case may be, to get you to that 8-9 win mark, then you're kind of talking about something different. But yeah, I mean, that was the whole point. Bringing them back was to kind of have that continuity. But you can have continuity in coaching staff and have zero on the field, which is kind of what's happening with the roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that they're going to do for the next year, and it's going to kind of, I think the bowl game is going to be a tough watch just because we're going to be so low on numbers, and while they'll get some practice in, and hopefully it'll help us next year. I think it's going to be tough because you're going to be counting on guys that hadn't played all year that are going to have to step up and play. So there's going to be some guys that they have to take the jump. Like I'm going to go over some of the guys that we've added in the portal and some guys that hopefully will commit here pretty soon. But on top of that, they're going to have some of these young guys like a Kavion Henderson and a Charlie Collins that were freshmen last year that you hope take the jump and do better next year. Same thing with Quincy Rhodes. He got some playing time this year, but you hope he takes that leap. You know, they're going to pull some guys out of the portal, but you also hope that you can take those high school guys and develop them. So same thing with the offensive line. I mean, the coaching staff, and Sam's been talking about Kobe Branham from Fort Smith. He's going to be one of your guards, and they talk about that's probably why Josh Braun hit the portal, because there was a legitimate chance that he was going to lose his starting job next year. So that's the kind of stuff you do want to hear, but you don't want to hear it for, 25 different guys. You want to hear that for a few positions. So they do got to bring in some portal talent. They've already brought in some guys, so there's kind of a pattern that I've saw to where they're either going after a little more veteran guys that have put up a little bit of production, or they're going after highly rated high school guys that didn't necessarily get a lot of playing time at their last spot. So Raylan Sharp, he was a guy that was with Bobby Portis. I think I touched on him a little before. But
Bobby Portis back in the mix.
Man.
My man.
I did.
You got basketball in the brain.
Months ago, too. I was actually watching the Thunder and the Bucks game. So I was watching Bobby Portis like 20 minutes ago. So getting down that. Bobby Petrino. He was with Bobby Petrino at Missouri State. So he had a really good year for them. He went to Fresno State, continued to be pretty solid. I think he'll come in and be the Satanga replacement. So he'll be your slot guy. He's probably only about 5'8", 5'9", so shorter guy with a little bit of speed and likes to work over the middle. We got a guy today that Cam Shanks. He was from UAB, so we actually played him a little bit earlier in the year, but he led the nation in punt return yards. So he's a redshirt freshman, but he averaged almost 20 or a little over 20 yards a punt return, had a little over 300 yards returning, and had a touchdown that he returned. He'll come in and replace Satanga as the punt returner, and he'll work in the receiver some, but he's a shorter guy as well, 5'8". He is probably your plan to replace Raylan in the slot next year, and then he's going to handle your punt return duties. So 2 good ads there. We got to have some receivers coming in. Another place they had to add guys was a tight end. We got Jaden Platt. He's from Texas A&M. This was a guy that was right around top 100, one of the better tight ends in his class. He didn't see the field much at A&M. I think he's had 2 catches for like 50 yards in his career. So, I mean, that's a guy they drew up a play for one time, and he probably caught like a 40-yard pass. So he didn't get a whole lot of playing time. But a guy that was really talented in high school, I think he's immediately a better blocker than Haas. But I think it's a little unrealistic for you to think this guy's probably going to come in and catch 600 yards. But he'll be a redshirt sophomore next year, and if he can just maybe get around the same thing that Haas got this year, which was around 300 yards, catch a couple of touchdowns, and then block really well for you, I think that's a reasonable ask, and he could be a really good piece. We talked about Jaquan McRoy last week. He was the highly rated tackle from Oregon. He'll be a redshirt freshman. Depending on the guys that they bring in, he could work into the line. But, offensive line's one of those ones to where, and Kobe Brandon may prove this wrong, but it's hard to step in as a young guy and start in the SEC immediately. But he's a big boy. He may be able to do it. And then the last true portal that addition that they've had is Connie Walker. He was from Oklahoma. He got a little bit of playing time there. He started out the year as a starter there. Oklahoma, as much as a nightmare that they were this year, they had a pretty solid offense or defense. So he started out as a starter there. They had a really good true freshman come in and kind of take over towards the end of the year. But this is a more veteran guy. I believe he's a redshirt junior. So he's kind of an older guy. He started out the year as the starter in Oklahoma and then kind of got taken over. But when your secondary is as depleted as ours, I mean, I could see him coming in and being in the rotation at bare minimum. So they've got some guys in that, they've got some good pieces. They got a good start. We're in the very beginning of portal. We're like 8 days. I think it's 8 days in. So you got the rest of this month, and they've got some commits, and they got to follow it up and get some more. But they got a pretty good start so far.
Yeah, I agree. On the tight end plat, I'm trying to remember. While you've been talking, I've been looking, but I bumped my head this morning, and I'm a little foggy. Yeah. We had a tight end, maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe. That was a big guy that blocked a lot, but he still caught some passes. He was like a fan favorite. I'm so mad at myself for blocking on liking on. One more time. No. I remembered him. It was like recent, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember. It was a tight end. Let me know in the comments who it is, because it's gonna be driving me crazy. I even Googled it, and I still couldn't see him pop up.
I'm pretty sure
he wasn't a stat. No, he wasn't a stat guy, but he was a big guy, and he still caught some passes.
Yeah,
and he like grad transferred, I think.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it right now either.
Man, that's unfortunate. Anyway, let us know in the comments if it pops in my head. But I could see that. I mean, that's a pretty big piece to a Bobby Petrino offense. I mean, you think back to DJ Williams. He was a receiving tight end, but he also was physical, and that's what you really loved about him is he would open up some holes for some people, and he would protect the quarterback too. I mean, you get some of those guys like that are very like physical and are willing blockers. That's awesome. You see that with that tight end. I don't know if either one of those receivers are really going to be that piece down the field that we got in, because they are both that kind of slot, smaller guy. But you can still, I mean, you can just give that split second that you need, and Green could take off. So I think there's a lot of talent coming in, a lot of potential coming in. Let me say that, and then future, we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm not satisfied with the work they've done yet. Just like anybody else, even the coaching staff, I don't think they're satisfied yet. But I mean, we'll see. I think there's potential, and I think there's more guys that are up for grabs out there that can really make a difference. And so we'll see. And I mean, we have a young class coming in too. I mean, we have a decent class coming in. They're not great. They're not top. They're not a number one class or anything. But we're gonna have a great opportunity to see some of our young guys go up against Texas Tech here soon, and just kind of see. That's one of those games. I just hope everybody stays healthy, and I just hope both teams have fun out there. You know, that's the mantra there. No, I want to win it, but we're young. This game, we've lost most of our talent. Just get out there and kind of take care of some business. What does worry me, which may actually be a good thing because it'll flip over again, hopefully in a year or so. Next year's schedule looks rough. Like you start looking through there, you try to find some wins to get back to bowl eligibility. I don't know. Have you had a chance to really look at the schedule yet?
Yeah, yeah, I got to look at it. It's one of those to where I'm curious to see how I'll look at this schedule a year from now, because I remember last year looking at the schedule we had this year. Of course, you do it every year with our schedule, but I was like, man, that's a tough schedule. And you look back on it, and while it was still a tough schedule, you could argue we should have had a couple more wins. And that's off of a team that, I mean, we're not a top 10 team in the country or nothing, but we could have beaten. I mean, LSU ended up not being, as good as they looked against us. Definitely should have beat Oklahoma State. Absolutely could have beat Missouri. So I'm wondering how we'll look at this schedule at this time next year. But I mean, you look at it right now, and it's tough. Memphis just won their conference. They're not a slouch team now. They're losing their quarterback, who was like the heartbeat of their team, and he was really good. So I'll be curious to see if they're as good. But I mean, they're a solid team, and you got to go at Memphis. That's a tough game, and then you get Notre Dame as well. I mean, they're in the playoffs. They're always going to be stout. And then you roll into, I mean, we still got to play. There's Arkansas State. That's a game you really hope you don't lose, because, of the 10 Arkansas State fans in the state that, like them more than they like Arkansas, you don't want to lose, because you don't want to hear that. I mean, there are a lot of SEC teams that they have to, battle to be the best team in their state, like Auburn and Alabama. And then, you can look at who's the best team in Florida, or, look at all these different. There's no debate, in my mind at least. Arkansas is the top team in the state. You don't want to lose that game. And Arkansas State, they're usually a pretty good team. So you don't want to lose. And then you roll right into the SEC schedule, and we know that's tough. So
I mean, we have to go to Tennessee this year. We get A&M at home, which is kind of cool. That's nice. That's a yes. I mean, that's I always wanted to go to a game at Jerry World, but I want that game back home and home. Yeah. So we have I mean, it's brutal stretches, but we have A&M, Auburn, and Mississippi State at home. Hopefully we can take care of those. Sam Pittman's teams historically have done better on the road for whatever reason outside of Tennessee this last year. So hopefully that'll be a if that rings true, we got it. We got 2 Tennessee, 2 Memphis, 2 Ole Miss, 2 LSU, 2 Texas. I mean, that's brutal. That is brutal. But I mean, I'm just looking through this. I could see another 6, 7 win, depending on what the teams look like when it's all said and done. If we can fill some pieces and stuff. Right now, it's all just up in the air. I mean, we're just going off of history, which has no relation to anything, because the whole roster, we just spent the whole first half of this video talking about the roster being completely flipped. So there's no transition there. I will say, I'm going to go on record right now. I think we beat Notre Dame on Saturday, September 27th at Donald W. Reynolds, Razorback Stadium. Mark it. Book it. We beat them. That's the team. That's the game that we sneak up on them and beat them. But we'll see. I think I think my very early, completely unrealistic record is going to be 6-6, maybe 7-5, with an upset of Notre Dame. That's my. Where's that sit with you?
I mean, man, you can't bait me into that. Yeah.
I tried. I tried.
Man, I couldn't even remotely throw a guess out there. I mean, if you go off of what you think right now of how those teams look and everything, but I mean, who knows what our team's going to look like? Who knows what their team's going to look like? I mean, there's still like 3 weeks that guys can enter the portal on, which yeah, we've lost a good chunk of people, but who's to say that Tennessee after their playoff run, I mean, they may lose some guys. Who the heck knows what's going to happen there? You know, if Ohio State loses their first game in the playoffs, does Ryan Day get fired? And I mean, does Lane Kiffin take that job? What does that do to the Ole Miss? You know, I mean, or who the heck ever may take that job? Like even I don't know. I mean, would Steve Sarkisian take that job? Would he rather be there than Texas? I mean, I have no clue on how some of these pieces that we play next year on how it falls. And I mean, we're still going to add probably 15 guys. I mean, 15, 16 guys. And I mean, kind of like you hit on it. I mean, we've got some talented guys there, but they haven't signed that have visited us. You know, we got to replace a running back room. We still got to get a true wide receiver to where I like those guys. We got to get a legit receiver. Like, I don't think we're going to replace Armstrong because it's pretty unrealistic to think you're just going to automatically replace the leading receiver in the SEC, but you got to get the pieces to do that. And so, man, I have no clue. We'll do a big over it, but I'm terrified to make that prediction right now.
That's fair. That's fair. And like I said, I mean, that's subject to change completely. We may be a 16 win team next year by the time it's all said and done. You never know, but we'll see. This all this stuff changes so quick and so often that, you know, even like today I was fully coming in, you know, ready-ish. I knew you'd be ready to carry me, and I always appreciate that about you. But I didn't see R-Dub hitting the portal. I mean, good night. Where'd that come from?
Now, that's who has verbally been against it. So
like big time.
I don't know what happened. I like to think, and I hope that means that they've got a guy or two that is committed, and he just sees it to where he's like, I don't want to be in a 3-way split for the backfield or, you know, something like that. But man, yeah, I didn't think he would go. I thought he would stay.
Yeah, same. But we'll see.
And I'll go on record saying, like, I don't think he's a huge loss. Like, I think he's okay. I would have been all right with him staying, but I'm not. You know, I'd much rather have some of these other guys that we've lost. And I think we're on guys that I think could be better. But he was surprising more so from the fact, and I think, you know, to kind of tie it into what we, and you know, did the intro on the show. He's one that I thought him and the Metcalf bros were guys that would stay at Arkansas the entire time. I just didn't see them entering more so because of their behavior and how they've been and just some of the things that they've said over the last couple of years. That's where it's surprising to me. So
that's what makes it so like kind of a bummer as a fan is you pour a lot of your like heart into these guys and you cheer your guts out for some of these guys. And, you know, like they're all Arkansas. Like I love that. Like these are my favorite guys. I'm going to cheer for them, root for them, even when they mess up sometimes. And then all of a sudden they're hitting the portal and going to rivals and they're going to like here and there. Like I said earlier, like that loyalty is tough to maintain right there. I mean, that's weird.
And Snacks last year, Snacks Johnson, that was your guy.
Yes, I loved that guy. And I still root for him. And he went to Baylor. I mean, he didn't go to SEC school. He went back home. I mean, that's the kind of move that I'm like, okay.
But
understandable.
At the end of the year last year, like after that Missouri game, I would never would have thought he would have entered the fourth.
No, I would have never thought that. Not at all. But if y'all want to hang around, keep turn on that bell, drop a subscribe. I mean, this stuff changes so often. We're trying to get some of these videos in while we can during the holidays. You know, it's a busy time for everybody. I know a lot of y'all may be trying to hide out and watch some YouTube, so we'll try to get you a little bit of content. You know, but we want to spend some time with our families. You know, we got a bunch of boys running around between us that we need to tend to. You know, but y'all have a Merry Christmas. Don't forget the true reason for the season. You know, that's our Lord and Savior was born right now. So he loved you enough to come down and see you. Let's honor that. Let's show him that we love him and truly remember the reason for the season. If that offends you, I'm sorry. Feel free. Come talk to me about it. I'd love to talk to you about it. Anyway, y'all have a great week. You stay blessed. Stay passionate. Tell somebody you love them. We'll see you next time.